Pleads guilty to attempted sexual exploitation of a minor. The church where 40-year-old Corey Herthel works contacted the FBI after receiving information of him being involved in an inappropriate sexual relationship with a minor from Venezuela. Herthel said he knew the minor from a mission trip to Ecuador, where he met the child begging in the streets. Herthel kept in contact with the child when he returned to Venezuela. The investigation revealed Herthel sent the child nude videos of himself at Herthel's request. The child sent similar videos and images to the pastor. When confronted, Herthel said he admitted to sending and receiving videos and photos of the child and also sent the child monetary payments. Herthel could be sentenced to up to 15 years in prison and will be required to register as a sex offender.